So this is Andrew Benny. I mentioned before. I'm the product director at Springer Publishing Company. I'm joined today by Zane Westmoreland, co-founder of Acadiate, a talent marketing company that helps candidates apply and enroll to graduate programs and other career opportunities. And we're very pleased to present today's webinar on how to position your graduate program for success. Just before we get started, I'm just going to go through the agenda for today. We're going to start with a review of our 2019 graduate survey. We actually just work with a market research firm to better understand how graduate nurses and nurses in general decide to pursue an MSN versus a DNP versus a PhD. We're going to share those key findings as well as some other elements. Provide recommendations for nursing programs on how to position themselves and differentiate themselves from other schools, whether they're online, traditional, or hybrid. And we're also going to go through just positioning in general for success for graduate programs. Just to understand the approach and methodology, over the last month, we interviewed and surveyed nurses. We surveyed about 233 and interviewed nurses to get a better insight, just more in-depth insight into how those decisions are made to approve or pursue bachelor's versus a master's versus a doctorate program. Most of our candidates are pursuing an MSN. And you can see here in this, we covered really the MSN, BSN, and PhD and DNP. We had a couple other degrees we work with, and we had them covered as well. But we're going to basically provide in-depth information on how each of the survey respondents responded to each of these kinds of degrees. So we attended a great session called the GNAP. The AACN has a graduate nursing admissions meeting every year. This year it was in Salt Lake City. And something that stood out for us is the former director of admissions at the University of Washington School of Nursing, Carolyn Chow. She mentioned a quote in her presentation. Essentially, people don't buy what you do, but why you do it. It's a quote from a TEDx talk by Simon Sinek. He's a strategic communications professor at Columbia. And essentially, he created a golden circle or approach to understanding how to resonate with any audience, whether it's a product or a program. So today, I just wanted to clarify, we're going to cover the how. So, and as he put it, some organizations or programs know how they do it. And the things that make them special or differentiate them from their competition. So we're going to show you ways you can position yourselves or differentiate from other nursing programs, other online, hybrid, or traditional. And we encourage you to keep thinking about that why. So only you'll know that why. Why is your program offering this program? Just so that you're not providing just the features, the key features of a program or the concentrations, which are clear and important, but you're also resonating with a potential student who wants to understand if that's a good fit for them. So starting out soft with some of just the understanding of our research, we researched all of our nurses or interviewed all of our nurses, and we got a better sense of the social media landscape. We have a better understanding that nurses are on Facebook and LinkedIn. They're not always there, especially graduate nurses, but those social media platforms have proven more effective in terms of providing nurses with information about schools and programs, and they often listen to others who are on those programs. So a lot of nurses noted that word of mouth was an important driver for understanding and finding out about a nursing school. So we encourage you to look into those platforms if you're not already on them. Another item we have here is, I'll put this up, is why nurses pursue a graduate nursing degree in general. So we had several metrics for MSNs and DNPs just to understand why they choose to pursue that degree. And a lot of students pursuing MSNs and DNPs noted that they just want to accelerate their career or increase their salary potential. Updating their skills was a strong metric as well, a driver for their decision-making. And DNP candidates pursue a degree to fulfill their credentials and update their clinical knowledge. Just noting that all of these slides will be shared after, so we'll share the research that we found. And just doing a deep dive of why do nurses pursue an MSN. Most nurses pursue an MSN to accelerate their career development and update their skills. So they focus on really the practical purposes of pursuing an MSN rather than the softer elements, sort of leadership, respect, and even competencies at that stage that might relate, as you'll see later, to the DNP or PhD. So noting the DNP, most DNPs go pursue, or at least in our survey, decide to pursue a nursing degree to update their clinical skills and increase their salary. So making that point in your marketing and your efforts would be important as well, just to stand out. And programs should highlight the specific clinical skills and knowledge when promoting these programs. So how do these specific competencies and learnings align with what I'll get out of the program? In terms of PhDs or potential candidates for the PhD nursing programs wanted to see specialty credentials as well as just generally updating their skills and knowledge. Similar findings to the DNP, but since this is more research oriented in our in-person communication, we heard more notes about how many times you've been published. Is this school does this school have a good publishing record? So there was more research focused interest in schools as opposed to the other types of programs. One thing that was kind of shocking to us was the decision criteria for selecting a nursing program. So most nurses and nursing students selected convenience and cost. And they also noted that prestige was less important than cost and convenience. We also noted that distance from home was less important given the general preferences for online education. So as you probably already know, there are several new programs and a growth in online nursing programs. So students are a lot more selective in terms of how far they want to travel and what options are available. So convenience and cost definitely stood out generally among our nurses. In terms of the preferred format for nursing programs, online dominated. 66% of nurses chose either part-time, full-time, or hybrid online as the preferred choice for nursing program, while on-campus lagged. So the traditional programs are not as of interest to graduate nurses. Less than 10% of nurses actually prefer on-campus programs, which we believe is driving the demand for these online course creation in general. So in terms of the recommendations, just repeating what we've already mentioned in some of the slides, prestige plays a minor role in school selection. I know this might come as a shock to maybe some, but we found that programs in general, or students in general, noted that they were unable to get a job after graduating from certain programs that might be deemed prestigious, and the job market was tough for everyone. So we found that even in the graduate nursing degree, it was not as important as cost and convenience. In terms of recommendations, local advertising is key. So making sure that the word of mouth and sort of systematized word of mouth through social networks, through making sure that your local market is covered in terms of what other nursing programs are in that market, that you have a good awareness for that program, because most of your students could potentially come from there. So just having understanding of what's working, what's not, and having metrics for that, because with a lot of local advertising, especially when it's not digital, it's very hard to judge what is successful and what is not, so that you're making most of your spend. And lastly, nurses want clarity on specializations offered, format, and price. So the degree and specializations has to be clear. Many programs we've worked with have very clear specializations, some that are exclusive to a certain markets or local markets. So making that clear offhand so you know who you're trying to reach and which kind of students will resonate with your particular degree or program. And making sure that it's clear that certain programs are online versus in person, and what is expected of that nurse. So we're so many nurses work part-time or full-time while in these programs. So it has to be clear from the start what's expected from them. And even communicating that in the marketing is key. And lastly, price and intangible factors. So what other differentiating factors separate your program and make your program different and will resonate with that audience? And in many cases, we see that a lot of programs are very clear about their price offhand and what a student will get out of that. As we mentioned before, in prestige not having a factor, the nurses that noted that were unable to find jobs after. So they want to make sure that what they're investing will have a payoff in terms of salary. We found that even more with the BSNs and MSNs. So it's just clear that they have a path for success when attending, when deciding to enroll in your program. And lastly, just a quick run through. We actually help nursing programs basically provide leads and digital marketing for programs, for nursing programs. So we'll share these slides after, but I just wanted to go through certain things we're offering in terms of the self-service lead gen. We find that a lot of nursing programs are not engaging in lead gen, which are really used in traditional industries and other industries like banking or insurance. But lead gen is sort of, once you understand which nurses and what kind of students resonate with your program and how your program is differentiated, you can make that decision to reach out to those nurses and nurture that network. So that could certainly help. Targeted digital advertising or emails are a certainty. That's a fast way of reaching nurses by location, which, as I mentioned before, is quite important for a lot of school strategies. Content-driven leads are essentially sponsored content, so sponsored apps, sponsored blog posts, and those help brand you and position your school differently once you can make that decision to differentiate in whatever way you choose. And lastly, online recruitment events to communicate your value to students. So what differentiates you? But I won't go into that too much because our partner at Acadiate works with us on our live online events. So I'll hand it over to Zane to discuss that further.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zane Westmoreland. I am one of the co-founders at Acadiate, and we are excited to partner with Springer on live online recruitment events. Our background in student talent marketing gives us a lot of insight. We work with a lot of students on how they choose and how they brand and project themselves when applying to whether it's graduate school, undergrad school, or even to employers. So it's given us deep insight into the types of things that matter to them, the types of things they're looking for, and the types of things they feel they're missing in their general approach to finding a quality education to help them take the next steps in their career. So first thing, I want to give you a little bit of a flavor for what a live online recruitment event is. I know it's something that not a lot of schools have really embraced or used as yet, but we do feel that it is a very powerful way to really nurture the quality of the candidates and leads that can apply to your schools. So it is a full service solution, as we say, for nurtured higher quality leads. And the way we approach this is between Katie and Springer, what we do is we speak to you. You tell us the type of individuals you're looking for, minimum education, geographic or location you're looking to get them from. And we send out personalized invites for your target market to join us for an online event centered around your program and your school. In this process, we handle all the registration and hosting of the entire online recruitment event, and it's typically a 50-minute live event, 30 minutes of which you're able to speak about your program and lead an event focused on what matters to students, and we can give you some insights into the types of things that we know they want to hear about. And then at the end of it, we also add on 20 minutes around career development to help the potential candidate understand more deeply how your education is going to help them fulfill their goals, purely from a talent marketing perspective, and how they're going to be able to utilize your education to achieve the outcomes that they're investing in. And last but not least, we will provide all of the event leads to you. So if we go to the next slide, there's several benefits to this approach to getting leads. The first thing is that the leads from these events are from a unique engagement. And what that means is they're not just any lead. They're not a lead that's been sitting around. They're active. They've shown direct interest in furthering their education by signing up to view the event. And because the event is branded around your school in particular, they're also showing direct interest in your program. Which is a great benefit because now you know not only is now the right time to be talking to them, that they're willing to take 15 minutes to an hour out of their time to listen and to learn more about your school. But by going through that hour, they're also more nurtured. They have a deeper understanding of how exactly your program is going to be beneficial to them, and we cover the bigger items that we know that matter to them throughout the event. The other great thing about the online recruitment events is that it is a performance-based cost. So it is $1,000 per event plus $100 to $200 per lead, but the $1,000 event fee is waived for the first event. And we've got so much confidence in this approach that we believe that we can deliver the types of leads that you are looking for, and more insight into those leads and better nurtured so that your staff can reach out to candidates that are more receptive to the messaging around your education. Next slide. That said, we do also want to touch on a couple areas about how you should be positioning your school for success, and how to clearly articulate the value in the areas that matter most to prospective students. So in speaking to a lot of students, one of the things they want to know the most about any education is they want to have confidence that their time invested and the money invested in the education will pay off for them. And to do that, we want to give them, or we want schools to give them greater clarity around three areas in particular. The first area, and overwhelmingly the largest area, is career benefits. So if I'm going to invest in something, I want to know, how great is this investment going to be? So types of questions that schools should be asking themselves are things like, why will prospective students find competitive advantage in their career by choosing your school over other schools? And this is something that not a lot of students that we talk to can differentiate between. They find the messaging from a lot of schools to be very similar, and they're not really able to say one school is doing something different to another. So this means bringing up things in your marketing materials or your positioning that addresses things like, do you have unique job access? Is there exclusive courses? How is your faculty different or better? Do you have industry partnerships? Do they have better access to tools or online tools? Are there more professional development opportunities? Are they able to develop unique skill sets or unique certifications? Are there mentorship programs? These are all things that are very, very important to students. And we see there's a lack of marketing or an under marketing of these elements of programs to them. The second area is inconvenience. We see a lot of the nurses want to know why it'll be easier, um, or more fluent for them to complete their education alongside their busy career by choosing your school over others. So for that, they want to know, is your online education, is it flexible? Is it easy to register? Is there rolling starting times? What happens if work gets overwhelming? Are they able to pause the education? What is the customer service like? Can it fit into their schedule? And does it work with any computer? Something as simple as that. Am I going to have to go out and buy new technology to enroll in your course? These are all very pertinent questions around the convenience of your program that you want to address to them so that they can visualize and see how they're going to manage their life as a nurse while completing your education. And last but not least is affordability, cost, or value. So we know some schools, aren't going to win on cost, but we do believe those schools then have to focus on the value. So the question you need to ask yourself is, why will prospective students find it more affordable or more valuable to choose your school over others? So what this is for a lot of students is a lot of nurses want to know that, I don't have to give up my full-time job. I don't have to take on that opportunity cost. Can I continue working full-time? That's one thing they want to know off the bat. The other thing they want to know, in addition to pay my tuition, what are the options? Are there flexible payments? Is there grants? What type of loans are available, or how am I going to fund this education? And these are things that we found that the more clear you make them to students, the more likely they are to take those next steps or overcome those hurdles of making a decision on one education over another. So those are just a few of the major areas that we'd like to see, and we've heard from students that they want to see greater clarity around positioning your education to help them make better decisions. But we now would like to open up any questions that you may have or any clarity from today's event. And you can use the Q&A feature here, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
And actually, one thing I'll mention just to better understand the audiences, and this I neglected to add before, what student enrollment marketing strategies are working for you. And I just wanted to share this so at least the group can benefit and understand what's working and what's not in terms of your outreach efforts to students locally or nationally. So I'll run that for a few minutes before as we wait for questions.
Okay, so while we're having that running, would love to have anyone that is interested in trying a live online recruitment event. It's something that we've heard from a lot of students have told us they haven't really seen a lot of them, so now is actually a really good time to reach out to them around this type of way to make it more personable. It's a much softer way of communicating where you're not cold emailing them or cold calling them, where they're coming into it on their own terms because they genuinely want to learn more about your school. And we see that that's actually a great way to have yourself positioned to a candidate as well. Okay, so the presentation PowerPoint will be available to download.
So I'm sharing the results. So it's pretty much split between email marketing, online open houses, and other. And other can be anything from traditional flyers to anything, but we can learn about that later. But what's surprising here is that a lot of you aren't using lead generation. So I'll note that we started doing that last November with schools, and it's a different approach. So it's all performance based. So I would definitely encourage you um, to ask more about that or to look into that as an option, because we see not only schools using that, but OPMs or online program managers that run enrollment and recruitment on behalf of schools are also systemizing that in a way to have a competitive advantage. So I would definitely consider that or look into that as an option.
Yeah. And there's two questions here. One question is if the presentation is available to download, and we will make it available to download after the event. The second question is, what is the average number of participants for the online events hosted by Acadiate? So one of the things to clarify, it's hosted by both Acadiate and Springer Publishing. And the average number of participants is actually dependent totally on the school that we're working for. Springer, as you may know, has access to millions of nurses across the US. And Andrew could probably speak greater to the type of reach that they have. So the way we typically work is we'll ask you, what types of targets you're looking to get in terms of lead generation, and then we will fill out the seats based on that.
That's right. So I think you answered it perfectly. So we can reach about 2.6 million U.S. nurses and nursing potential nursing students. So it's just a matter of who you're trying to reach. So if you're looking at a DNP program that is focused on a specific concentration, let's say emergency and disaster management, then that's going to have a smaller audience and a smaller, potentially a smaller registrant list. But if you have a generally MSN online FNP program, that audience is going to be huge potentially. So we'll likely get at least between 50 and 100. The good thing about these events is that you can cap them. So if you have a specific budget, or if you wanted certain criteria to decide whether someone can potentially attend a session, we can make sure that only those individuals who you deem worthwhile for or deemed valid for an MSN program or whatever degree that you're providing would attend that session. So we can craft it that way. I'm seeing another question, Zane, about what differentiates between $110 and $200 price. It's all about the degree. So the BSN and MSNs will range between 100 and 150, whereas DNP and PhD audience is a lot smaller and a lot harder to reach in terms of nurses who want to pursue a research graduate degree or a DNP, evidence-based DNP. So because it's more difficult for us to reach them, since we take care of all of the marketing costs and making sure that they attend these webinars, it might take some time with pacing. So we have to just do a lot more marketing to get there. So that's why. And also you might see it on the cost per enrollment. So in general, I'm not sure if you follow these figures, but the cost per enrollment for a generally MSN to DNP is around 12,500 after all marketing costs. So we're making sure that we're doing our all we can to make sure that you get these leads early and you can nurture these potential candidates who might be right for your school. I think that's it in terms of questions. But as Zane mentioned, actually, we just got one more. So what qualifies a lead we have a couple more. So what qualifies a lead will cost 100 to 200. So it's simply the degree and the size of the audience. So DNPs, I believe like the last ACN metric I saw is we have about 20,000 DNPs. Of course, MSN's pursuing DNPs, it's different, but DNP programs, so they're still growing the programs, and the size of a DNP program might range, might start at 10 to 25 on average. So it's tougher to get those candidates. So that's why that's sort of that range is a lot higher. Um, Looking at and what qualifies the lead, it's only degree. So I heard recently that in Virginia is going to start requiring NP nurses to have a DNP. We eliminated our MSN program. What are your suggestions for selling a DNP program versus an MSN? What do you think the MSN numbers are still so high? So I think, so just from our conversation, so Springer Publishing is a 60-year-old nursing publisher. So we provide nursing books. I'm on the digital side, so we provide ebooks, apps, everything digital to nurses as well. And from our conversations with universities, there's sort of there's I wouldn't say a fight, but there's a disagreement in terms of whether schools will keep the MSN, have a BSN to DNP program, or launch or get rid of their MSN altogether and have a DNP program. So the fact that Virginia is doing that.
Andrew, they clarified that it is the Veterans Administration.
Oh, it's a Veterans Administration. Oh, sorry. Thank you. So, oh yeah. So that's even more important. So, so let me just look at the question again. So VA requiring NPs to have a DNP. Yes. So yeah, that's specifically. The MSN numbers are still so high. I think it's just because they started early. The DNP program is relatively new, so a lot of programs had existing MSN programs, and they were reaching a population of students who were already in those programs. And the DNP it's not new, but it's relatively new. So I think it's just a matter of catching up, and also making the case to hospital systems that there's a career path for the DNP. So I think that in terms of the organization, it's still making that case to make sure that there's a clear career path for roles that require a DNP versus an MSN. But I would love to have that conversation with you, because our editors would add a lot more value than I would. But we've had this discussion within our organization about that. Another question is lead merely someone who attends the webinar. So no. So it's someone who attends the webinar or registered for the webinar that that you'd like to reach out to moving forward. So just because life gets in the way, we record all of our webinars. We also provide an embed code. So we host them on our sites, springerpub.com, dailynurse.com, and minorityNurse.com. Those reach about 3 million unique nurses in the US every year. So we promote them after the fact, and we allow you to actually host that webinar on your site. So just a simple code. If you have an administrator or a web developer on your team, you can have that added to your site, and that can be played at any moment. We also host it on YouTube, so you can basically use that link and have that embedded on your site that way as well. But the Veterans Administration question is pretty poignant, because I attended an event with it was the commissioner for the VA. So there were a lot of nursing programs that focus only on VA. So they're definitely talking about how to create policies to make sure that nursing programs are preparing nurses who work for the VA. So and I'm not sure if that's been published yet or public, but it's something that they're working on to make sure that programs are preparing nurses for the VA. Because I know there are a lot of VA programs that work on the BSN level at MSN, but since that change, I'm guessing that they're also creating curriculum and policies to make sure that there's a path to working for the VA. And I think that goes back to our discussion about making sure that your program stands out in terms of communicating the value of a nurse applying to your school, enrolling in your school, and having a path to getting a job afterwards.
Right. And I'd like to just add to your answer on the lead being just someone who attends the webinar. the great thing about the leads in the webinar are they have effectively been curated. We have sent it out, invitation out to thousands of different potential nurses that meet the minimum education requirement and geographic location. And the leads that attend the webinar are those individuals that have self-selected out of that group. So it's actually a great way to target from a larger group, those that are in fact highly interested in your program or education.
So I think we're good. Well, thank you all for joining today. You'll see our information on the screen. I would love to have that conversation about the VA and the DNP degree, but after, because I'll probably get our editorial staff to talk about that as well. And perhaps we can have a webinar strictly on that, because that's definitely an interesting topic that I'm sure our staff and our authors could cover pretty well. But thank you again for joining today, and we look forward to seeing you again for our webinar series.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.